Welcome. I'd like to welcome you here today to the second day of the Center for Innovation's annual Fall Forum. This event gathers leaders from around the world to discuss innovation in the design and construction industry. Over the last year, the Center for Innovation has rebranded and also kept our passion for sharing innovation stories about people, process, the planet, and you. Our mission remains the same. We are dedicated to improving the built environment and inspiring innovation. We have a rich library of past events you can find on YouTube, and I'm happy to announce that we're also creating podcasts of our webinars that you can find wherever you download your favorite podcasts. Thank you to all of you who inspire us every day with your stories. Our Fall Forum, which continues through tomorrow, is sponsored by Bosch. We are so grateful for the continued support of Bosch for these events. Our topic today is accelerating innovation at the core of a business, the Bosch story. At the Center for Innovation, we wondered, what can happen when the heart of a business is focused on innovation? How might the innovation story be different? It's a heady and interesting topic, and we're so pleased to be able to do a deep dive with our friends at Bosch and to understand Bosch's process. Today, I'm honored to introduce Rebecca Snelling, a board member at the Center for Innovation, who will tee up today's conversation and introduce our speakers. Rebecca, take it away.
Thank you so much, Margie. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you today. And it's really great to see innovation becoming more and more on the forefront of the minds in people in our AEC industry. We see startups coming in from the outside with fresh new ideas. We see longstanding organizations in our industry starting to focus more and more on innovation and try and experiment new things. One of the opportunities that we have at hand is to really start to think about how we can bring innovation into the core of our business, or like Margie said, into the heart of our operations, right? And so that it becomes part of who we are, as opposed to something that we do by happenstance when we need to. When you do that, it can have real lasting momentum and power. So in today's presentation, we will get to hear how Bosch has managed to build innovation into who they are. It's part of their system, and it has been for a very long time. While their organization might be a little different than yours, I will challenge all of us to listen with a really keen ear for ideas that we can turn into action within our own organizations. Today with me, we've got Dr. Christian Peters, who has his PhD and master's in microsystem technology from the Albert Ludwig University in Germany. And he graduated both of those, achieving with both high honors. After spending 3 years with Northrop Grumman as a systems engineer on high performance sensors, he joined the corporate research at Robert Bosch, working on the Internet of Things sensor systems. He is now located in Sunnyvale, California, and he's currently leading the strategic research portfolio, smart sensors, and hardware systems for Bosch Corporate Research. He was the innovation management delegate for Bosch Corporate Research in North America, and he's currently holding over 100 granted and pending patents. Also with us today, we have Raphael Franca, business management from Bosch Refine My Site in North America. He works in an interdisciplinary team at Bosch Power Tools, organized to improve efficiency and productivity in the construction industry through lean methodologies supported by Refine My Site, the lean collaboration technological platform. He is an entrepreneur, and he's responsible for building and growing new businesses for Bosch within the construction industry. So throughout this presentation, we will be taking questions. We'd like you to please put them in the chat box. And then near the end of the presentation, I will ask those questions back to Dr. Christian Peters for us. And this session will be 60 minutes. Without further ado, Christian, I'd like to hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Thanks for the very kind introduction. It's really a pleasure to be here and give you some insights how we deal with innovation at Bosch. All right, yeah, let's jump right into it. I would like to start my presentation today to give you a quick overview about Robert Bosch, what we are doing, and there might be some surprising facts about Bosch you might not know. And then I will come to the main topic of today's talk. Why do we need innovation, and how can we be successful with innovation? And later on, my colleague, he will give us an, let's say, real-world example about the Bosch refiner site. And then I would like to conclude my talk at the end. A quick overview about Robert Bosch. So here you can see the 2021 numbers of Bosch. So we made around 79 billion euros of sales revenue, led to an EBIT of 3.2 billion. So it was a pretty rough year for Bosch with all the pandemic, with supply chain issues, but we still did surprisingly okayish, I would say. So Bosch overall has more than 400,000 employees in more than 60 countries all over the world. And if you now get excited about Bosch and what we are doing, and you decide later on you want to go to your broker and buy some stocks from Bosch, I have to disappoint you, because Bosch is a privately held company. And this is pretty remarkable for a company of that size. But on the other hand, it gives us really some big advantages, especially when it's about planning and the long-term strategy of Bosch. We don't have to justify ourselves what we are doing every quarter in front of some stakeholders. We can really do what is right for the company and keep the company going. And we are very successful since more than 130 years. So what is Bosch doing? So you guys might know the consumer goods, the power tools, and maybe also the home appliances like dishwashers and washing machines and so on. So this is one of the few areas Bosch does a business to customer direct sale. Usually we are doing way more business to business. But overall, this is less than 30% of our total sales. And the big chunk of Bosch is actually in the mobility sector. So Bosch is not building own cars, but if you pop the hood on your car, I'm pretty sure you find many, many parts which were manufactured and supplied from Bosch. And this is almost 60% of our total sales. And then we have different other areas like the industrial technology with Bosch Rexroth, where we actually help manufacturing lines, and also the energy and building technology like heat pumps and so on. But this is a little bit smaller, so the core is really the mobility solutions. Next, I would like to share some core values of Bosch, because this will become important later when we go deeper into the innovation topic. One thing I want to point out is the responsibility and sustainability value Bosch has. So Bosch came CO2 neutral in 2020, the whole company worldwide. And this is actually very remarkable for such a huge company. And you can imagine in 2020 with the pandemic in full swing and the hard business number, that we actually still stick to the goal to become carbon neutral. Of course, we have to future and result focused. This is also very important. And the whole topic about fairness. So we want to be fair to our associates, and we want to be fair to our customers. And this also leads to the point about openness and trust. So there's a famous quote from Robert Bosch, I think from the 1920s, when he said, okay, if I have the option between losing trust or losing money, I would rather lose money than losing trust of my customers. And this is also a very, very remarkable statement. Let's dive a little bit deeper into the research and development part of Bosch. So as you remember, we have around 400,000 associates worldwide. And 76,000 are actually in research and development. This is a huge part of Bosch. And around half of the people are nowadays working in software. And if you think about Bosch is a mechanical company, we are building things, we are manufacturing things and selling it. But the top management realized the future goes more and more into software. So we have to strengthen this area to deal with new developments like the software-defined car. So this becomes more and more part of our business. We have more than 128 research and development locations worldwide. Bosch also has a corporate research all over the world, where we really focus on the long-term innovation for Bosch. We have a strong footprint here in the Silicon Valley. We have locations in Germany and Asia Pacific, where we work very closely together with local companies, with startups, but also with the local academia. So Bosch spent 6.1 billion euros in 2021 for R&D, which is around 8%. And this was not a one-time thing. So here you can see development over the last 5 years. and it was always like between 9 and 7.8%. So it's pretty high. So why are we spending 6 billion euros per year in R&D? This will bring me to my second part of my presentation. Why do we need innovation? Let's have a quick look at the S&P 500, which is a major index for very important companies here in the US. And if you look at the numbers, the lifespan of a company in the S&P 500 was around 60 years in 1958. So today it's 18 years. And there's a prediction from McKinsey saying that 75% of the companies which are today listed in the S&P 500 will disappear from the index in 2027. There's a huge change, and the change gets faster and faster. To give you some examples here, this graph shows how many years it took for a product to gain 50 million users. So airlines, 68 years, cars, 62 years, television was a little bit faster, 22 years. If you look at the cell phones, 12 years, YouTube, 4 years, and Pokemon Go, 19 days. Imagine you launch a product, within 19 days, you have 50 million users. Of course, now you can argue, yeah, but this is poor software, it doesn't scale. But you also have to think about other sectors. Think about Airbnb. Airbnb didn't build all the houses they are now offering. The houses were already there. They built an ecosystem, a software platform, and making money out of existing buildings. And they changed completely the industry. So here's a quote from Charles Darwin: "It's not the strongest species that survive, nor the most intelligent," which might be a little bit disappointing for us, but the ones most responsive to change. And the change is getting faster and faster. The pace, innovation, and digitalization changing entire industries is really unprecedented, and we have to react. I want to give you a few examples. A quick look at the cell phone market. Maybe some people know back in the days, Nokia was really a dominant player. They had this great phone, which you can actually nowadays still get on eBay, and I'm pretty sure this has some battery lifetime left. Very successful until the iPhone appeared. And if you really look into the iPhone from an innovation point of view, what Apple did, they didn't invent everything from scratch. Most of the components were already there. They just combined it in a new awesome product and built this whole ecosystem around it with the App Store and so on. But we all know what happens to Nokia. Nokia is by far not as big anymore as it was back in the days. Another Apple example, called Apple versus the Switch watch industry. If you think about Switch watches from Switzerland, Rolex, Omega, Breitling, and so on and so forth. Very high quality products in business since hundreds of years. And then the Apple Watch appeared. If you look at the sales number over the years, at the beginning, it was okay, but it was not an incredible successful business for Apple. And then between 17 and 18, it really picked up speed. And what happened between 18 and 19, the Apple Watch sold more watches with one single product compared to the entire mechanical Swiss watch industry. Of course, the revenue the Swiss watch industry is making is higher compared to what Apple is making right now. It's maybe like 60% what the Swiss watch industry is doing. But think about it in the other way. If I would ever decide to buy a Rolex or Omega, this thing better last for my entire lifetime. For Apple, they have no interest for you to keep your Apple Watch for more than 3 years because they offer you a new one. So they make really good money with a short living product, and they can sell you a new watch every 3 years. Speaking about digital cameras, what do you guys think? Who invented the first digital camera? It was Kodak. There was a guy, Steve Sanson, in the 1970s, and he worked at the research lab at Kodak. And it was pretty cool that they had a research lab because they really wanted to be prepared of all the changes they are coming. So he took a Nikon camera, a mechanical analog camera, put in an imager, and showed it to the high management. What was the response? Like, we don't really believe in this product because nowadays people they travel quite far to take a few pictures. But as we all know, things changed. Nowadays, it's a completely different market, and Kodak had to file bankruptcy in 2012. Another example, which is way closer to the Bosch business. Here you can see the number of daily rides of the yellow cabs in New York City, very stable, around 500,000 per day, until Uber and Lyft appeared, and then it went down. Now you can argue, okay, but there's still service, there's still cars involved. People just changed the way they want to get transported from A to B. That's true, but if you look at the total number went up. So more and more people are using this kind of ride-sharing services. And what does it mean? When are you taking an Uber or Lyft? If you don't have your own car around, or if you don't have a car at all anymore. And this is exactly what we see. Here you can see the global car sales in millions from up to 2022. And what we can see here, unfortunately, it's a little bit misleading because if you look at the 2018 numbers, this was more than 80 million cars. And then it went down. It went down, of course, dramatically due to the pandemic. Now we have the supply chain issues. However, there's not a single study I'm aware of which will ever predict the same car sales number like we had in 2018. So what does it mean? As you remember, Bosch is doing 60% of the business in this field. Now we have a market which is not growing, which is maybe coming up a little bit, but will never reach the 2018 numbers. So in order to make more money, we have to increase our market share in the sectors, or we have to come up with completely new ideas, new products. And this is why we need innovation. So first of all, what is innovation? Unfortunately, in this virtual setup, I cannot really ask the audience about their definition about innovation. But in my experience, if you ask 5 people, you get 5 different answers. You hear something like things like, oh, it has to be something new. It has to be a great idea. It's something you need to stay relevant, or that's value. And this is all correct. There are many, many things. For example, if I hire a new student for my team, and during the interview, he tells me, hey, you know, I'm a really innovative guy. I said, I'm not sure. You maybe have great ideas, but innovation has also this factor of making money, being commercially successful. And out of grad school, maybe you have ideas, but maybe you're not innovative right now. No. But if you join Bosch, we can help you to really become an innovator. So my key takeaway here is discuss what is innovation for you, for your business within your management team. That at least you in your sector or in your company have the same view and really know what you're talking about. How can we foster innovation? One thing, or the first thing is about the environment. What are the trends in the market? Some people say we have to be hyper alert nowadays to really see what's going on, because trends can change very fast. And maybe we have to adapt. Hyper alert doesn't mean panic every time you see something in the news, but look into it, analyze it, and maybe you have to adjust your strategy. If you have to adjust your strategy every time you see something in the news, then you maybe should rethink about your strategy, if it's really a strategy, what you have in place, or maybe you have to change the way you develop strategy in this environment we are living in right now. But this would be a different topic I want to touch today. More from the inside, empowerment, organization and leadership, innovation culture. This is extremely important. So you have to create space for innovation. If you do a little bit of research how the human brain works, you can figure out there are 2 stages where the brain can really come up with new ideas. One is under extreme stress, kind of life-threatening stress. It's kind of, sometimes I call it the MacGyver effect. So you're stuck somewhere and you have only a pencil and a hammer and you have to build a helicopter. But usually this is not sustainable because it applies too much pressure on the people. And if you think about yourself, when do you have the ideas? It's usually not when you have a certain stress level. You need some freedom. You need some time to think, to read, and also get stimuli from the outside. You can do some innovation campaigns. Ask your organization about new ideas, make kind of an event out of it, give some prizes for the best ideas, and really reward the whole work that people are putting into it. Very important is also to accept and reward failure. Because if you go into this innovation field, you will fail in some areas. You will not be successful in all areas. And just as an example, if you would establish an innovation, let's say, department within your company, and after 2 years, you go to the leader and ask him, hey, what was your biggest failure? And he tells you, oh, I was successful everywhere. Then I would really challenge if he's doing the right thing. Why? Innovation usually is something bigger. It's really like a big step forward. It's not like a small improvement. If you do a small improvement, you have a good feeling if it will be successful or not. If you go for the big jumps, there's a high risk of failure. And if you want to aim for the big jumps, naturally some of the big jumps will fail, or you have to pivot and restart again. So accept it and make it part of your culture that failure is okay. Just learn from it. This is the most important thing. Expertise. It's also very important to have the know-how and the right resources in place for what you want to do. Nowadays, I see it a lot that people talk a lot about AI, machine learning, and what can be done. And say, oh, I want to be part of it. And you pick one guy, and now you're the expert for machine learning. This is not a good way to do it. If you want to go in a certain direction, you need the expertise and you need some leader who really understands this topic and go from there. So go outside, hire someone, hire a small team, and bring the expertise to your team, or have a good partner strategy in place. Go to universities, go to external companies to get the expertise and the know-how you need in order to be successful. Execution. Starting this innovation department or team is a very important first step, but it's more, because imagine at one point they have a great idea, they want to do something, and then you need to execute. You need to have the processes in place. You need to have the sales channels in place for this potential new product. And this is something you have to think about also right from the start. Sometimes this is called the 4E framework. And keep this in mind to have all the puzzle pieces in place. Next thing is how assess ideas. And there are 3 basic criteria. The first one is feasibility. Can we do this? So here at Bosch, we have a large number of very skilled engineers. And usually if I approach them and say, hey, can you do it? I'm pretty confident they will come up with a solution. Then the next question will be, can we make money out of it? Should we do this? When is our return of invest? And here also we have departments, the smart people, they can do the math, they can say, yes, the product will cost this and that, and we see a chance we can sell it on the market. And most tricky is the last one, desirability. Who wants this? And why is this tricky? Imagine you're sitting together with your management team, 5 people, you get confronted with a new idea, and you should give an assessment about the desirability. Most likely you will get 5 different answers, and none of them are wrong. Why? Because we usually speak about our own desires, and it's very difficult for us to imagine a completely different group of people, which might be our focus group. So what we have to do here is we have to check it. This can be done with MVPs, minimum valuable products. You just build the bare minimum, you go outside of the building and test the market. You cannot do it within your company. Go outside and to your real customers and get some feedback. Another very interesting aspect is the so-called prototyping, which is maybe not so well known for many people. I want to give you some insights. So prototyping is about to figure out who wants this product without spending a lot of money. And imagine you're running a big fast food company, let's call it McDonald's, and you have the Big Macs, you have fries, you have ice cream. So you're good in business. But of course, you want to expand your business. And you think about what else can we sell, what people really want. Spaghetti. Let's call it Mac Spaghetti, $3.99. Okay. But before you know, you go to your development department and say, hey, please develop, I don't know if it's the right term, the Mac Spaghetti, which can be really produced in a fast food way and still taste good and so on and so forth. It will cost you a lot of money. So what you can do is prototyping. You pick 20 of your restaurants and you change the menu. You put in the Mac Spaghetti on the menu And what happens if a customer walks to the counter, said, hey, I want to have a Big Mac, a Coke, and oh, how about the Mac spaghetti? This sounds cool. Then you will tell them, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have it. But instead, I give you a free ice cream for free. So what will happen? The customer will walk away. He's still kind of okay. She got free ice cream. Everyone likes ice cream. And you know one of the customers was interested in the Mac spaghetti. And this you run for a couple of weeks in different locations, maybe in different places all over the world. And then you get a feedback from the people if they are interested or not. And then you can, of course, have to think about it. If it's a known product, there will be more interest and so on and so forth. But you have a first feeling without spending much money. And this is a different approach compared to prototyping, where you basically try to figure out, can I build it? The last topic I want to talk about is the freedom to operate. Secure your ideas. Because if you have an idea and you bring a product out to the market and it can be copied within a half a year from your competitors, you have a big problem, because maybe he's cheaper because he didn't have all the development costs you had. But patents are also not cheap. It costs you a lot of time and money to write patents and read them and really make sure that patents are strong. The first time I wrote an invention report, sent it out to a lawyer, and I got it back in the lawyer language, I didn't understand what he was talking about, even if it was my idea. It's a completely different language, and you have to learn to deal with it. You should also develop a patent strategy. So what are the important areas where we want to be in? And what are important areas we might see our competitors grow and we want to block them? This is also a valid patent strategy most people are doing, like the Apples and Googles of this world. You should also think about what should be patented and what not. Because if at the end, if you have a product, but you cannot see if someone is violating your patent, for example, during manufacturing or during end measurement, then you shouldn't file it. It's more like a trade secret. Because in the moment you file a patent, it becomes public knowledge. Everyone can see it, can read it. And if they are not very trustworthy, they just steal your idea and you have no way to figure it out. There's no way for you to get some license fees. The last thing is also you should really think about your inventors, incentivize them. So we at Bosch, we really got a great success with the number of invention records when we realized this and give some small incentives to the inventors to honor their work. So how is Bosch dealing in this way? So here you can see the patent filings in 2021 only from Germany, and Bosch was filing almost 4,000 patents in 1 year in Germany, which is twice the number compared to the number 2, which was BMW in this case. There are some studies within Bosch at one point that Bosch was filing, I think, every 12 minutes a new patent worldwide. And this gives us a lot of freedom to operate, that we can actually do what we want to do without getting blocked out from our competitors. And with this, I would like to hand over to Raphael to give us now a real-world example about innovation.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Thanks, Christian, for the great insights. Hopefully this has inspired everyone that is watching here. This is just an example. I work here at Bosch as well within the Bosch Power Tools division. And we've been in the industry for over 100 years. It's a lot of time. But that does not guarantee that if we don't start innovating, if we don't really focus, of course, we always should innovate on doing our on our core business. We've been in this industry providing hardware and accessories, measuring tools to the entire industry for a very long time. But that does not guarantee that we're going to still be here within the next, I wouldn't even say 100 years, but does that guarantee our success over the past 100 years does not guarantee that we'll be here within the next 10 years. So what we do, as Christian just mentioned, it's really being very driven by the users, being very user-oriented, going to the market all the time, seeing the changes, the transformation that is happening within the construction industry. And as you probably are in this market, you know that the industry changed so much over the past years. So construction today is not only about hardware. You see now today construction in the construction industry, of course, you still see those heavy duty tools and machines on every job site, but also there's a lot of technology out there as well. So the construction is changing, it is adopting, and it has to adopt more technology in order to enhance productivity, but also profitability to everyone, but also the quality of life that everyone that is working in this industry. So that's one of the reasons why back in 2014, we started also developing what else can we offer that is connected and that's helping really the users that are on the job site. So we developed a product, and that was absolutely started with an idea. We went through all the phases that Christian presented, like prototyping, prototyping, minimum value product, going to the job site. And Bosch has a very strict framework as well. So when we have an idea all the way to bringing it to the market, many of those ideas, they don't come through, but Refine My Site, which is the product that we developed within our division, it's been on the market since 2020. So it is really to transform the way people work based on the lean principles. So we all know the construction industry needs to change. We want to transform the way people work today, and with something that's very intuitive and easy to use. Doesn't mean that we have hard engineering put it on a product, but in the end, it has to be extremely easy to use, data-driven, providing data that really supports those that need to take decisions on a job site. One of the major features that I can highlight from Bosch Refine My Site is to really work on collaborative planning, so get everything in real time, make the execution of the planning on the field very aligned with everyone. It also can be a documentation tool. You also have a lot of key performance indicators that will really help you to take better decisions on the job site, but also integrating for the first time the field planning with BIM model as well. So with that, there was just a single example from one of the things out of thousands that Bosch is working on innovation, and that is a great success that happened within Bosch. With that, I'll hand over to Christian here for the conclusion.
Thanks, Rafael.
Thank you.
So to conclude today's presentation, the way I see it, innovation is a must to stay relevant. We saw many examples how fast even well-established industries can become irrelevant within a very short period of time. So it's not a nice to have, and don't think you are safe because you are producing something. As I said, with other examples like Airbnb, someone around you will change something, come up with a smart idea, and trust me, you want to be part of it. And the pace is constantly increasing. Be hyper alert, really see what's going on in your industry, react to it, adapt, adjust to stay relevant in your whole business. Also keep in mind the 4E framework. So all the puzzle pieces must be in place. Don't have only an innovation manager. Think about everything which is needed. Give the people the freedom, give the people the space to work on it, and also, of course, then listen to them. And last thing, really accept the failure. If you accept the failure in some areas, you shouldn't be unsuccessful in all areas, but you will not be successful in all of them. Just to try to fail fast, to learn from it, make a pivot, adjust, or follow other ideas. And with this, I would like to end my presentation. And Rafael and I, we are happy to take any questions you guys have.
Wow, Christian, that was phenomenal. There's a sense of urgency throughout your presentation that I felt about innovation that I don't know that we necessarily always feel in our own businesses. That was really impactful. I think that last piece in your conclusion there too about a must to stay relevant as opposed to nice to have, I think We are starting to understand that in the AEC industry, but that's not been a common building block in how we've operated before. So I do want to encourage the audience, please go ahead and type any questions that you have into the Q&A box. I do have a couple I want to get you started with. The first one, so obviously Bosch has been around for well over 100 years, and innovation has been core to you the entire time, right? So, or at least for most of that. How has your process and thinking around innovation continued to change over that time period within Bosch?
Yeah, so it changed. As you said, innovation is part of really the core business of Bosch since many, many years. We had this corporate research in place since many, many years, and we still believe in continuing to do it. Not like many of our competitors. They started with the corporate research, but they said, oh, no, we don't do it anymore. We just get everything from the outside. Bosch has a different strategy. We still think we have to have our own corporate research. We have to come up with our own ideas. But what changed? We don't believe anymore we have to develop everything and invent everything by our own. We are way more open nowadays to partner, finding the right partner with other companies, with academia, with research institutes, and everything which is already there. Don't reinvent it. Take it. Make a good agreement with your partner, and both will benefit. This is one big change. The second big change is, of course, the whole shift more from the mechanical world to the software world. I present you nowadays, half the people are working in software, and my prediction would be it will still go up a little bit more. We will still produce stuff because we are pretty good in producing, but the whole thing about software digitalization will become more and more important. I mentioned the example of a software-defined car. This will completely change the way we think about cars nowadays and in the future. So nowadays, you have a system only dealing with the multimedia, one system dealing with driver assistance and so on. In the future, it will be one central computer, and it will be one system dealing with different modules. Instead of this approach going really from top to down, we have a horizontal approach.
Yeah, that's really interesting seeing it expand wide as opposed to just deep. And you know, the part of what you just said about even the software with cars changing and how that whole model looks. I was talking to one of your colleagues, and they mentioned that, you know, at one point, steering wheels that are heated, you'll be able to download the software for that for a month if you want it, right? It's not a component that you have to buy in your car. It's something that you will upload or download, and you know, as you want it and have it on demand. It's just mind-blowing to then take that kind of a shift in how we think about something mechanical that we operate with day in, day out, and take that same formula and apply it to the A&C industry. It's just kind of it's a big leap. It's really interesting. There's a lot of great opportunities.
I can give you a different example exactly in this field. Think about Adobe, the software company.
Yeah.
What did they do back in the days? They sold software. Every year, every 2 years, they have a new product and they try to sell it. And then they completely shifted to a service model. You just rent their software. Right. And they had a hard time at the beginning, but nowadays, most of their business is coming out of the services. You rent the software, and it's now very, very successful.
Yeah, that's a great example. So given that there are so many different subsidiaries at Bosch, how would you characterize any variation or different approaches and outcomes to innovation that you have within the company?
Yeah. As I said, Bosch is such a big company, and we cannot come up with a strategy for the whole company. It's impossible. So we really have to divide and conquer and give this different sectors and even the different business units within the sector some autonomy to come up with their own solution. Because some are definitely more software driven, they need a different approach. Some are more hardware, they need a different approach. There's not a one-fits-all solution. That's what I also mentioned during my presentation. discuss it in your leadership team. First of all, what is innovation? How do you want to tackle this? Develop a strategy. And it might be not a bad idea to bring someone in from the outside with maybe more open eye. He maybe knows the process, how to develop innovation and innovation strategy very well, but maybe he doesn't know your industry at all. But I'm pretty sure you will gain some very, very important insights.
Yeah. That diversity of thought, and you've mentioned this a couple times, not only throughout the presentation, but also in the Q&A, of bringing in other people who might not have the same perspective that you do, right? It only enhances the value that you can deliver at the end. That's really cool. So in the AEC industry, for the last 5 years-ish, maybe a little longer, innovation has been getting more and more traction, or at least the idea of it. And there are a lot of organizations just kind of stepping into the world of innovation. So what would you recommend as like a step one? So step one that a lot of companies have done already is they'll have a director of innovation, which you said you need the whole framework, right? What would you recommend as maybe then step two for an organization who's really just starting to get into this space?
Before someone really putting into this position, there must be a commitment from the whole, let's say, management team, whoever is steering the company. We want to go this route, and we want to listen to this person. And then, as I said, use the 4E framework to really see if you have all puzzle pieces in place. It's usually not enough to say, oh, my competitor is doing innovation. We also start an innovation department. Give them some power, because they will come up with some ideas, and you have to assess them together. And then, of course, you have to decide in which direction you want to go. But also the last piece, the execution. Make sure you have everything in place. But what is the point if you have a great idea, but you cannot sell it because you don't have the sales channel? So it has to really go hand in hand in hand. And there must be a lot of interaction between the different departments and different areas that they are involved in an early stage. And also, I cannot stress it enough, accept the failure. Give the people some time, and challenge them and ask them, hey, after 2 years, you didn't fail? There's no failure? You're not jumping far enough. This is not what we want. It's a small step, but it's not like this big jump forward, which can completely change an industry, because this is what you want to have in an innovation department.
Yeah, if you don't have some failures, you won't have the really big successes, right?
Exactly.
And that is something for, at least on the construction side, we're a very risk adverse industry. So the idea of failing, big or small, is very scary for a lot of people. So I guess shifting that whole mindset around that and encouraging smaller failures more frequently, right? So that you can learn and grow. So another question from the audience: does Bosch promote their own innovative ideas across the company to demonstrate novel methods of thinking? Like, you talked about having all those different kind of sectors and groups that run innovation kind of parallel to each other. How do you leverage that network?
It's a very good question. So we have some central departments which should exactly look into this and spread information from one department into other departments. With 400,000 people, it's not working all the time perfectly. But yes, we have to learn from each other. We have to learn from our failures, and we have to see, okay, this section A is doing this, and then section B has still to look, okay, this might be an interesting approach, but we still have to adapt it a little bit, because our business is a little bit different, because we are selling power drills. We have product cycles of 2 years compared to the automotive with product cycles of typically 6-7 years.
Yeah. So you have to take what you're learning and then embed your critical thinking into it to apply it to your state, right? Which is kind of actually what we challenge the audience to think about, right? And Bosch is not your company, but what can we learn from them, and how can we tweak that? So how do you go about sharing those lessons? I'm sorry, go ahead.
So just to add, so we in corporate research, we're only a small part of the whole R&D, so like 1,500 people. But basically the corporate research is a small version of the entire Bosch world, because our goal is to innovate and develop new products, come up with new ideas for entire Bosch. So all the sectors are kind of shrink down in corporate research, and it's way easier to share this kind of information within a small company compared to a bigger one, and then also use this network give information to the business sectors.
So it kind of comes in and then back out, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you even coming in, I mean, you said 76,000 employees in research and development, right? Out of 403. So like 18%. That is a pretty sizable chunk of folks focused on R&D. So another question that just popped in with regard to the AEC industry, one issue I see throughout the whole design build process is the massive amount of waste. So it's very hard to change mindsets for clients to take on risk on new processes. What role of education do you see? What is the role of education within innovation? Specifically, how can you educate teams that are comprised of a lot of different companies and to innovate while they're also trying to meet project deadlines?
Yeah, also a very good question. I guess one of them, Pater, you can also answer from your point of view. For us, it's not only the external partners, but it's also education of our own business units. To give you an example, the automotive industry is also not very fast moving. We have long process cycles. And how did it work back in the days? Back in the days, BMW was approaching Bosch, hey, in 10 years from now, we develop a new car and we want to have this and that feature. And Bosch had 5-6 years for the development part, ramping up. And then by the time the car got into production, everything was ready. And this changed. The so-called new progressive mobility players like Tesla, they deal differently. They don't tell us what they want to have in 10 years. They said, hey, do you have it? And this puts also a lot of innovation pressure now on Bosch. And we also had to change and adapt. We have to also take more risk on our end to develop something no one is asking for right now, but we have a feeling it will come. And to your question from the externals in our industry, we see is they change. They see what others are doing. They adapt and said, oh, let's do the Tesla model. Huh? Let's go away. And we are also trying to talk to the people. Are using our salespeople to reach out to our OEMs and say, hey, we have this and that in mind, and discuss it. And also try to convince them we all have to be faster as the whole industry. It's not only enough if one puzzle piece is fast and the rest is still slow. If we really want to be successful together, we all have to step up our speed and development. Robert, you want to jump in from there?
Hey, Rebecca. Hey, great to
Hello.
Hi. I think just to add it here, I think I understand it on the construction industry. We're working with so many different partners, not only directly with people from your own specific general contractor. We have the trade partners, we have the owner, we have the design team. I think mostly what motivates them to try out, it could be a new technology, it could be a new process, it could be trying to do things differently. And everyone has probably different motivations that will drive them, but you need really to find out what's the main purpose of why we're doing it. And it could be anything that goes from better collaboration with everyone. People might be driven by keeping their jobs, we all know the struggles that we have on the construction industry, especially. It's the one that has one of the highest suicide rates. So things need to change as well. Do you want to bring and have a better quality of life on that project that they're working with, and that will translate into so many areas of your life. So I think everyone needs to be open to change in the way, and not everyone have the same motivation. It could be money driven, it could be health driven, it could be a better relationship with everyone, but it can also be if you're not open to accept that it is a new process or new technology. Would that general contractor consider you within your next project? Can we build better? Can we build faster, but also keeping a great relationship with everyone and a great relationship within yourself? Start with a new project. Start small. Test on a project. Don't try to spread out quickly throughout the entire company. Have those quick, small wins, and then you will start making a big transformation within the company. Again, accept failure, but try it. You gotta keep always moving forward. That's my point.
Yeah, I can only echo what you just mentioned, Raphael. Don't aim for the big piece right from the start. If you would approach Audi and say, oh, the next A4, we want to completely change everything, they will not accept it because it's just too important for them. But maybe you can just talk to them, see small pieces. Hey, imagine what would happen if we change this? What would be the impact? Can we generate more value? Can we save money? Can we be faster? And then go from there step by step.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing in a lot of that is that this idea of continuous innovation in small incremental steps leads to the bigger innovation, right? It allows you the opportunities for failure because it's much more palatable to fail small than to fail large, right?
So to add here, have the big vision in mind and go step to step vision. Just don't only go step by step, only having a general direction, because then it will just this evolutionary progress and not the revolution.
Yes. Okay. I gotcha. So have your ultimate vision, your target condition, if you will, set in mind and take steps to get there, being willing to fail on those steps along the way. That gives you then the opportunity to improve and relearn what you need to learn to get you closer to that target. Right.
And it's kind of what startups are doing. I mean, they have an idea, a vision, they want to do it, and then they test the market and then they pivot. I mean, pivot in a startup is their daily business all the time. And we have to do the same,
Right.
Even if the big industry, you cannot say because only Bosch is doing is the right way to do it, because then we are again in this whole thing, what is desirable, what people want. And this is so difficult to judge.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting, the process that you're talking through sounds very, very similar to, for those of us in the lean world, Toyota Kata, right? The practice of getting to your target condition and plan, do, check, act along the way. So another question that we have in from the audience is that every participant in a construction team creates and manages information for themselves because that's what they've always done. And they also find it difficult to trust others with information. So there's a lot of CYA in our industry, right? Like I need my own set of information. So if things go crazy, I've got my backup. How do you see trust playing into that kind of a formula within the construction industry and impacting our ability to innovate really as a whole versus not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit far away from the construction industry, but I can share maybe some from some other areas. I mean, trust, as I said, is one of the core values. It's very important and was important also for the founder more than 100 years ago. And trust is something which you have to build up. You cannot approach someone and say, hey, trust me, okay, I will do the right thing. You have to work with them. They have to build up trust. And trust is a funny thing because you can, it needs a long time to build up, but you can destroy it in a blink. And you have to really consistent to build up this trust relationship, and if then your partner or your customer sees, hey, what Bosch is actually doing with this data helps me too. Especially if you now talk about data-driven models of machine learning AI, it's just driven by data. But if everyone sticks to the little piece of data, we cannot really go for the big chunk. We really have to work together and see what can we reach. And this is something we have to convince them. And we have to convince them, hey, we are not taking your data to make business without you having any benefit. And we have exactly this discussion right now also with our OEMs, because cars are producing a lot of data. We are providing components for the cars. Is a BMW or Audi or Mercedes or Ford willing to give us the data back? Usually not, because they say we are the owner of the data. So we have to work with them, convince them, hey, if you give us the data back, we can improve our product and you gain from it. Your product will also become better. It's a slow moving process forward, but there's no way around. We have to work together. We have to trust each other and we have to build up this trust. Yeah. You want to add something from the more construction side, Raphael?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Like trust. I think you need to start creating like the basis and the foundation for that. And without trust, you can't go anywhere. I think what I really like, and you see the construction industry is seeing more IPD contracts. And I think one of the foundations of an IPD is definitely work in it together. Let's look into more holistically. It's not silos, but we're in it together. We fail together, but we succeed together. So sharing risk and reward. And like Christian mentioned, trust is basics, is the foundation. Yeah. Otherwise, it's not gonna happen.
You know, it's interesting you bring that into the conversation, Rafa. I would agree with you. What I have seen around IPD contracts is when you do have that innate level of trust amongst the team with an IPD contract, you see phenomenal results. But when you see people that have signed that kind of a contract but still don't trust each other, and they still do all those same cover their butts that they've done before, and the same behaviors, that's when you get less than stellar results. So I couldn't agree more. You know, Christian, Stephen Covey's book, The Speed of Trust, opens up with a paragraph about that is the one thing, trust, that can change the world in a good way or a bad way, right? It's the one thing that makes things work really well or not work really well. And I guess you just can't get around it, right? So I have one last question for you. Last year, we had a speaker from the Museum of Failure. And I think some of you, Rafa, you might remember that. If you think back to Bosch's experiments and innovation along the way, what one activity or product might be, let's say, your biggest failure that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah. So from a commercial point of view, I think one of the biggest failure for Bosch was in the solar industry. So at one point we started to produce our own solar cells. We put a lot of resources also into research to really improve the efficiency of solar cells. And at one point we saw, hey, there's just no way for us to ever make money out of it because the environment changed. There was a big push, especially from China, with giving a lot of money to the companies, and we didn't get all the same money here in Europe, and there was just no way for us to succeed. And it was a great idea, and I still believe solar will help us in the long run to help with the energy crisis that we have, especially right now in Europe. But this was a very expensive failure for Bosch, and also from the innovation side, because there were some ideas which seemed good and really could push the level of efficiency for solar cells, but we never really could bring it to the market because the outside market changed very fast.
I am willing to guess you learned a lot of good lessons from that have infiltrated back into your research and development. Awesome. Thank you very much for being here with us today. Really appreciated your time and all that you had to share. Thank you. Margie, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you.
Great. We're so grateful to you, Christian and Rafa, for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your stories with us. We want to, again, extend our thanks to Bosch for sponsoring today's webinar, and Rebecca Snelling, as always, for great moderation of today's discussion. Thanks also to Katie Olson for keeping us on track. Tomorrow, please join the Center for Innovation for the final day of our fall forum when we explore Innovation 2050, Building Owners' Perspectives. We'll hear from building owners of a major hospital, university, and a leader at the General Services Administration. This webinar and all our webinars are available on YouTube, and podcasts are available on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and thanks for joining us today. Be well.